So yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity. It's not a standard academic presentation, but given that the topic is becoming more and more important for our institute, and as researcher, uh, we are supposed to be creative, right? We are supposed to push the frontiers of knowledge forward. So creativity is the basic, the essential of what we do here on everyday researcher. But now with the emergence of artificial intelligence, this guy, you will keep laughing on my talk. Please don't divert me. So we have to take this into account and see we can use at best this tool, and but keep somehow what makes us maybe unique. We'll see. That's the idea of the presentation, to discuss this question. So before I start, I would like to ask, and please don't be shy, who has never used ChatGPT or similar during his life? Never. By curiosity. So everybody. And who is using frequently AI, ChatGPT, machine learning? Yeah, you can frequently, like once a week or something like that. So there's still some people that are reluctant to innovation. And okay, Federico, I got it. I understand why you go so fast with your calculation. Okay. So 4 years ago, I mean, for ICN2, one big moment is what we call the Severo Ochoa Award. Okay, because this is like the Ministry of Education, probably, which select the best, the flagship institute in Spain, and provide a few million euros every 4 years. So we really have to prepare this very seriously. 4 years ago, we already started to bring artificial intelligence at the core of part of our innovation. We create I think a department or a service. We hire people. We start to train our researcher about the typical techniques. What does that mean? So on. So I think we have been very wise to do that. Now we are preparing the next award. And now I think AI is becoming more and more important, and not just. We can say that? What do you mean? Okay. Yeah, I'm a bit biased. But this is not just using ChatGPT to correct the text, to respond a message. Now it's becoming to analyze the data and to help us to really accelerate in the experimental work and the theoretical work to make much better and much more accurate theoretical models to understand materials. So that becomes very important for ICN2. If you take a bit higher scale, and let's take Europe, the European Commission, which is preparing plenty of new programs for accelerating the innovation, especially in advanced materials, is also putting artificial intelligence at the core. A lot of investments in infrastructure, AI gigafactories in Europe are funded. They have to be connected with the ecosystems. Advanced foundational models also are supported. Big initiatives are underway. So that's something we are really aware. I mean, that's a tool that is becoming, fundamental. And I see like two young Chinese PhD students, one with Serge's group, one with my group, and man, if you go to China and you go to these big cities, Shenzhen, you understand how much advanced they are in the use of artificial intelligence for their smart cities. But also, if you ask questions when you give a talks in China and you have plenty of Chinese students, you will see how interested they are about understanding all the contour of AI. And this kind of presentation probably will also please them a lot. Okay, so the living world in the to the thinking mind. Okay, I'm starting with that, with my little tiny ant, which imagine it is she or he, I don't know, let's say it is alone in this big forest, just alone, with these 250,000 neurons activating, firing, but it is alone. What will he do? Nothing. Okay. This teeny little ant has no meaning apart from being part of a collective ensemble. And then when they start to interact through extremely complex biochemical processes, then something happens. A meaning emerges, and they move in the same direction to search for food, to come back to their places. And what is actually very surprising is that this species, which has been on Earth for more than 140 millions of years, has certainly found ways to adapt, to be creative, to survive this global change of the climate on Earth, whatever predators have emerged in time. And so there is a certain creativity that has emerged from this interaction between hundreds of thousands of individuals who have no idea what's going on, but together something is emerging. And I'm actually very fascinated when you see that they can collectively group together and move across the river. And they will do that to move their colony from one place to another for a certain reason. They don't stay in the same place forever. So when you see this kind of construction, and you likely doesn't identify any architect who is deciding, hey guys, let's go all together. And when there is a river, hey guys, let's pack together. And the chemistry will do the magic. And then we will float and we will go to the other place. So I say that because I think I discussed with some people yesterday. We say, okay, creativity is the master part of human intelligence. So then we say, yeah, so it emerged from our billions of neurons, which are, interconnected together, right? But indeed, what is funny is that the ant has a lot of neurons, not billions. But then when you understand that everything that makes sense in a colony is the ensemble, and they are interconnected, then you reach trillions of neurons, okay? So complexity is certainly the way where you have the emergence of something new, something less trivial that can maybe be called like creativity. This is the kind of creativity of Mother Nature to have such kind of species to survive millions and millions of years. For what reason? Nobody knows. Certainly not the ants, but we don't know. But this is happening. Now, artificial intelligence, this is a definition maybe from Wikipedia, is a set of theory and techniques aimed at creating machines capable of simulating human intelligence. Okay, so that's the definition. And this was a very interesting point by Alan Turing, who say, let's try to make a test that at some point could distinguish between a real human and a machine. Because it's interesting to try to understand if at some point this machine of thinking in the way we think, not in a kind of complex, analysis of algorithm, but there is something that's really where they take decision or they go in a different direction, and so on. So that's a very, very important step that and test that he proposed. Now there is another very interesting book, Do Wonder-Weight Streams of Electric Chips, that maybe you know, and there is a famous movie for the old people, Thomas. Which is a movie related to that? Blade Runner. Okay, thank you. Do you know Blade Runner? You don't know. My goodness. So if you know Blade Runner, or maybe you will watch Blade Runner tonight, you will see what the future is. Even in China, you don't have it yet. You don't have replicants. You don't have a kind of copy of a human who looks like a human, who has an embodied intelligence and takes his own decision. He has a mission, but he can't take his own decision. Eventually, depending on the generation of the nexus you're considering, he can even feel something. He can even feel love to another replicant or maybe to a human. So that science fiction movie, I think you guys, you have to watch it because maybe you are the one that will make this real before we do. But that's a very interesting projection of the future. So let's come back to the reality. As you know, just like 2 years ago, Nobel Prize in physics and chemistry went to AI, to all these gentlemen. And I would like to point out particularly Geoffrey Hinton. So AI is now really into the research. You can find many, many papers. I don't know what is the percentage, but a lot of papers are actually using AI in order to screen out, to refine the models and so on and so forth. It might be not always successful, and companies are involved, but it is here. And it is here to really change the way we do science and the way we understand science. Of course, there's a lot of achievements of AI, defeating our best champions on chess and Go and so on, and very kind of worrisome comments by experts who say that there is a fundamental transformation of medicine that we can see at work. Also, AI can solve very complex mathematical problems, and if you pay now 250 euros a month, most of your mathematical problems are solved by AI. You have to pay the expensive one. So Hinton say there is also a longer-term existential threat that will arise when we create digital beings that are more intelligent than ourselves. So that's what Hinton, if you look at the video on YouTube, is always hammering this. That's kind of scary. The dark side of AI that might come at some point in time. We'll see. Because in Blade Runner, the end is not very good. I mean, you have to fight between humans and Nexus and replicants. That's a big stuff. So now, okay, we are humans. We are superior. I mean, that's our creation. So how can the creation becomes better than the creator, right? It's like in the movies, like Prometheus. Or I don't know which kind of movie, but it doesn't make any sense, right? What you create can scoop you or exceed your capability as a whole, not just specifically in one given thing. So let's start a war, I mean, a fight of intelligence between one of our two best brilliant brains ever, Galileo and Albert Einstein, and whatever AI can do today. And what I will do, I will say, okay, it's a kind of an imagination. We will feed a huge computing infrastructure with millions, and if you want billions or trillions of data that will tell the computers for a given object, a given mass, a given form, how it falls into the atmosphere. What is the trajectory? What if there is wind, or if there is snow, and so on, clouds. So it will get all this information, and from that you will put a new form, a new weight, and then you will ask him to compute exactly the trajectory of this object, and he will give you the perfect result. But now you will ask him, okay, now you have to understand that there is no atmosphere, and we are in vacuum. You will have to explain what is vacuum. Explain me what will happen. It's very unlikely that AI will understand and give you the law of free fall, which say what? That you take a rock or a feather, and they will fall in vacuum at the same speed. This will be very difficult for AI. Why? Because it's totally counterintuitive. It's not based on data. So that would be very mind-blowing for AI to anticipate and guess such a law. But Mr. Galileo did it. Just a man with very little energy. He wastes for that. And what he did, he just found a profound contradiction between the law of falling object at that time. That was based on common sense. You take a big rock, a small rock. It's likely the big rock would go faster. But what about if you attach the big rock with a small rock? Or whatever, a piece of paper. It is heavier than just a rock. So it will go faster. But at the same time, there is a kind of parachute effect. So maybe it should go slower. So it cannot be both at the same time. So the point is in between. If they fall at the same speed, you solve this kind of strange paradox. So that's the kind of thinking which is out of millions of data, huge amount of energy, but get to the point. And that's one of the most brilliant ones. Then you have Einstein, the same, which is our second giant, who was saying that let's make a thought experiment. I'm sitting on electrons on a light, a ray of light, and what happened? And then it distort the space-time and so on. So it is kind of crazy, based on absolutely no prior data that he could analyze and extract information with just thinking and trying to find something that makes sense to human mind. And again, you come back to AI and imagine you gave to AI all the information we have from these gravitational waves, information of black holes, anything. And then ask the AI, please, get or derive a single equation, the simplest possible, that can explain all this? By no way. I mean, I think Andre, who is the best expert here in the room, by no way. You can imagine that AI will come with this equation. Of course, if you not has access to Einstein papers and so on, right? So the data is not enough. It's definitely not enough. And AI is purely data-driven, as far as we understand today. Or I understand today. Now, another thing. Imagine your very smart AI that can speak in thousands of different languages, that know mathematics, physics, chemistry, bio, and you ask a question, AI, what do you think when you look at the moon? What do you think the robot will say? Say, what's the question? Of course, if he doesn't know. If he doesn't know, sorry. That another guy asks the same question. Why should I ask such a stupid question? Right? If I'm not looking at the moon is still there. It doesn't depend on me. But that's again something that it's a legend. But a human brain can ask this kind of question, and behind that, there is a possible revolution behind. Okay. Am I creative? So the creativity for me came, the question of creativity came in 2007. So I was in France, CA, and I was invited to workshop by Taiwanese people. So very nice, super nice. Going to the tower. But then I give my talk. Yeah, I know you will laugh. I'm that different. Yeah, it's different. I lost weight. But okay, the color changed, I'm human. But then it's not better now. Yeah, I don't know. It depends how you see it. But that's why I will never forget. It's like 20 years ago. The guy who invited me present me that way. Mr. Roche, who is, well, maybe he said that coming from France, a 2-digit PRL person. And I was, what? What I am? A 2-digit PRL. So PRL means physical review letters. I say, oh yeah, sure. I publish more than 10 PRL. So yeah, I'm great. I'm good, right? So I was presented that way. And I could not forget that, that this has a value, and that put me, under the, he's an important guy. 10 PRL, I don't think it's so much, but anyway. But then I realized quickly, and now even I'm debating with Sergio, that I will never in my current life become a 3-digit PRL papers. It's impossible. 100 PRL, it's a very hard work. I'm about 50, but I'm almost retired, so that doesn't work for me. So this kind of increasing my numbers, my metrics, doesn't make me more happy, because if I could publish hundreds, I could publish thousands and millions and the trillions, and so what? Okay. So now the question is, okay, so this is a bit stupid. How many POL, how many Nature paper for Sergio, how many Nature Electronics for Jose and whatever? That's not really good. But can we measure scientific metrics? So some guy, an Argentinian, proposed one number again, but the number that will, gives a flavor about the impact of your work. Makes more sense than the absolute number, right? And basically, this H factor that became very famous is just a number that tells you, let's say, take an example to make it simple. If you have published 30 papers with at least 30 citations, so people have considered your paper, your H is 30, and so on. And Mr. Hirsch say, okay, at that time was like 20 years ago, he say if you have 60 H after 20 years of research, you are a truly unique person. When we look at the impact of Mr. Hirsch, indeed, this paper, he had a very big impact. He had like 17,000 citations for this paper. Then he had something on spinal effect. So Sergio knew his research. So he's a good scientist, but he became extremely unique thanks to this defining this metric. Let's look a bit about who has the best metric on the world. For me, I would say this guy, because I'm a theoretician. I know that this is a legend for theoretical physicist and mathematician, Mr. Edward Witten. who is supposedly the kind of Einstein of our times at Advanced Princeton, Institute of Advanced Study in Princeton. And this guy, you look at video in YouTube, it's really a different, it's an extraterrestrial, he's not like us. He speaks in a different way, and he invents a lot of mathematics in order to try to solve the string theory, which is the biggest challenge of high particle physicists. And so he really made breakthrough in mathematics. He got a Nobel, not a Nobel, right? A field medal, which is equivalent for a mathematician, and he got an insane list of prestigious, awards, the Einstein, the Dirac, so. And his number of citation is 260, I don't see, yeah, and the age is 213. So for theoretical physics, this is the top of the top. But the most cited people are not brilliant mathematicians, no, they are just two very humble Japanese people that one day in a big equipment at extremely high pressure and temperature, they put a piece of the materials and they got another one. And what did they do? They discovered this boron nitride of extremely high quality that you can exfoliate from their sample. And they decide to do the following. Okay, this is super high quality. Let's give it to everybody. But then we just ask they put our name on the paper. We don't want to sell the materials. We just put our names. And thanks to that, they became extremely well known, like 277, 253. So they're above Edward Witten, who's a real mind, a creator. Those guys just like, who is most creative? All these metrics actually define who is the most creative. Do we care? Maybe not. I mean, they both have their function in our community, but that's completely opposite way to proceed and to develop knowledge, science, to help science to progress. And they have their role. Since I speak about absolute number, and I know the communication department likes this, we have our champions here. We have 100. Okay, we're still far from 200, but that's a good number. So Jordi and Arben, they are not here. They're very busy. But congratulations, 100 is already a good number. Okay, but that's not just H, because here she's very creative. He say no, because you have plenty of citation, but you are 10 on the paper, and you are not the first author, the last author. So let's try to refine the metrics. So he designed another one, an H alpha, like male alpha, then H bar, like the quantum. Then some people say, oh, we know your H. AI can tell you what would be your H in the future. I mean, that looks silly, man, because you need to publish papers. But, there are some people publishing paper telling you your age thanks to AI. But why I want to put just a second is on this one, this metric, this creativity index invented by a Spanish guy in Madrid. Why? Because first of all, when I read this paper, and of course, creating a new metric is to help the policymaker and general public as a measure of scientist, social, and economic service to the community. Yeah, that's great. But man, what are these formulas? They look ugly. They're awful. You make all creativity into this bunch of formula. But what is more interesting is that I met this guy in person. Usually when you give a seminar somewhere, and that was my case maybe 15 years ago in Madrid, before your seminar or after your seminar, you go and you visit different people and they talk to you and they explain what they are doing. And the idea is that you exchange. And maybe there is a creativity moment, an eureka moment, and you can collaborate. I had to spend half an hour with this guy. And I will remain all my life because it has been the most embarrassing moments of my whole life. Where not only I have to, are you awake? Are you living? But then when I start to move in his ground, in his area of expertise, instead of trying to engage, he just tried to challenge me and to test me on his ground, like if I was a student. What? So, poor guy. But what is incredible is that this situation with this challenge or with this ambition, to me, is so different that it's mind-blowing. But anyway, I have nothing against him. I also have nothing against the people that glorify themselves. Wow, every year there is a list of the people, the 0.1% more cited in the world. And you will see every year a lot of people putting on the LinkedIn, they're super happy, and they thanks all the group members, but it's such an honor. to be among this class, this elite of the people most cited in the world. But no harmful. They have the right to glorify themselves. That's okay. What is more funny is that actually you want to be number one. That's very easy. And I've seen that when I found this information that KAUST was actually the best in the world compared to all the Harvard, MIT, Caltech in some ranking with their metrics. Oh, wow. And even more, you can go to a place where you define your metrics. And then based on this definition, you will become number one and you become in the top 5, top 10. So does this make sense? So all these prices, all these metrics and so on, maybe we'll say Nobel laureate is the ultimate level of creativity. That's where you really have the most creative people in the world, right? A few stories. French mathematician Henri Poincaré, one of the greatest of all time. In a small paper, he said there is this conjecture that is correct, but in a couple of sentences. And it took 100 years for the greatest mathematician to try to solve this. And they failed. Until a very strange guy, again, and that's good, that's human nature, came, he drew some equation in Harvard and MIT, and he solved the problem. What he did, during 8 years, the guy was completely isolated, alone, working on this, developing new mathematics to solve that question. Okay? He never published any paper because he put just 3 manuscripts on archive and he never submitted to any journal. He was very quickly recognized as a discoverer, as the person that demonstrated the Poincaré conjecture. He was awarded the Field Medal, equivalent of the Nobel Prize. He was awarded $1 million, and he rejected everything. And one of the things I'm not interested in all you zoo. I don't want to be like in a zoo, on display like an animal in a zoo. And there is a very interesting book about who is he exactly that is interesting to see. So no Nobel Field, no, but he had really made an enormous amount of work and he was extremely creative to solve 100 years unsolved problem in mathematics. Another that Sergio likes a lot, Majorana. Also, Majorana is a kind of symbol of the innocence of a great genius that in a few papers, it just break the walls and it was at the level of Paul Dirac, which was also a giant of quantum mechanics, and then disappear, and we don't know why he decided to disappear and how he decided to disappear. So that's really something we love, physicists. Of course, his predictions have been subject to a lot of interest for experimentalists. Even Sergio might one day find Majorana fermions. Turns out that at some point in time, this very good scientist, very good physicist, published many papers, and he was on the road to the Nobel laureate. Okay, there was Microsoft made a special labs there, anticipating what will come, and he was awarded a position there and things like that. Until not an unknown guys, but kind of very marginal person with low age and maybe not so many paper, they found that in 2 different papers there was the kind of same data probably. That was weird, fishy. And then they looked into the detail, and it turns out that there was a real problem. And all these nice papers, or not just the guy I'm showing, but others, demonstrate that there were flaws, problems in showing the data or not showing all the data. And at the end of the day, all this demonstration of Majorana fermions, prediction many years before, was actually unstable, not real. So everything collapsed. But you can imagine if these people, well, not very, I think they are good, very good physicists, but none of it will have just abandoned against this enormous machine of people, of company coming and saying, this is the next topological quantum computing, Majorana fermion, Leo Kubenhoven, Charlie Marcus, we will do the big revolution. With all these people, I don't know what will happen today. Maybe we will have Majorana fermions everywhere, but there will not be Majorana fermions. This is a very nice book too. This guy was inventor of background imaging of cosmic extragalactic polarization, and he lost the Nobel Prize. He thought he lost the Nobel Prize. But that's not my question. The book is super interesting. What is interesting is that his conclusion was that the Nobel Prize, instead of advancing scientific progress, may actually, not always, hamper it and encourage speed and greed while punishing collaboration and bold innovation. And that's quite a good statement. Okay, it's not always, absolutely not, but it can happen. And the Majorana fermion might have end to something like that. That's also one of our famous guru of theoretical physics, quantum physicist, Feynman, colorful physicist, plenty of nice stuff. And they will ask him, what was the Nobel Prize? And they say, well, of course he got the Nobel Prize and he enjoys the ceremony and feel that, but he say, the prize is the pleasure of finding the thing out. Kicked in the discovery, the observation that the other people use it. The honor are unreal. So at least, even if he's a controversial figure, he had the balls to say these kind of things. I'm keeping now a few other examples. This is a theoretician. When he published this paper and others, most of the people say, what an academic work. What does that mean? I mean, if you are interested in materials that has by no way you will ever see, you will ever make a material like this, like in this paper. But he was visionary. Based on principle, physics, or laws, he discovered a new state of matter, which was actually revealed, decades later. He got also the Nobel Prize with other colleague, fantastic. But what I want to see, also the guy is just a single author person. He doesn't have 250, just like 70. But what is funny is like what this guy is saying now when he has a presentation. Let's say a motivational message to student audience. Okay, so if you want a Nobel Prize, you need luck to stumble across something truly unexpected that turns out later to have impact. So it's not just like, oh, I want to be a Nobel. I know that Majorana fermion is a Nobel, so I need to show that there is Majorana fermions in my structure. No. That's what he thinks, especially for theoretician, of course, that applies more. Then he say preparation to recognize what you have found as something remarkable. Because maybe you have something, but you are not able to evaluate how important it could be. So you can completely miss, even if you have discovered it somehow. And then the commitment to follow it through a fight for it. And that's also something that we do. We put some people, I'm thinking, I'm looking at Iona and Luis, and during years, the poor postdoc is fighting to do something with a lot of effort and frustration and so on. But I don't know that you will get a Nobel Prize, but it's worth to do because it's like, it's our job to do. It's our job. Our job is not to do something that can be solved. And now mathematics, computing, the AI is taking over. So the moon, why Einstein was just interested by if the moon is there or not there. I will not go because I gave a presentation on quantum. Just because he was unsatisfied by the interpretation of quantum mechanics again. And then what I want just to flash is that this paper, one of his last, actually his most impactful paper in all his career, while he was in Princeton, is this one. Well, it's just a question. And then the rest of the text, everybody here can read it with basics of quantum mechanics, but not advanced. And actually, as I say, it is the most cited paper of Einstein. Of course, Einstein now, this paper, not so much cite anymore. But thanks to one question, another guy, like 15 years or 30 years after, decide to try to solve the question of Einstein, a theoretician again. And then 15 years after, another guy, very stubborn, he wrote a fantastic book too, found equipment here and there, he has to negotiate and things like that. He made the experiment, he solved the equation of Einstein, the question of Einstein. And thanks to these three guys in a row, let's say, okay, I'm French, so I put a French. There was other guys. Again, Nobel Prize. The question is not they get the medals, but the question is that they are pushed. This is to put light on the fact that we can do more with quantum and we can enter into the era of quantum computers, quantum technology, quantum communication, and so on. It starts with one question. Right? And then 30 years, another guy doing some math. And 15 years, another guy, one guy with one student, finding the equipment, not having billions and millions and big company funding this, and they make completely revolutionary discovery. This guy is also very interesting. He got the Ig Nobel. So the Nobel, just to laugh. I mean, he did something to levitate a frog with high magnet, and this is, what the hell is this about, right? So he got this prize, but then he got another idea on this Friday experiment to exfoliate some kind of graphite. and to get a single layer of graphene, and then the graphene was born. Okay, and then he got the Nobel Prize. Graphene was revealing extraordinarily beautiful information. Now this is another guy which is also very interesting. He's a Spanish, and he has found something interesting. Is that he put graphene, put another graphene, he just twist a bit, and then he found something magic. Okay, I will not enter into too much detail, but he found a new physics that was completely unexpected. Excellent. So I asked ChatGPT, because he's a friend of us. ChatGPT, why is Pablo creative? So he say, okay, because he's not limiting himself to apply the existing theory to design an experiment. He's trying, to go beyond, And then I asked GPT, I say I'm going a bit fast, so he imagine new experiments, explore things that nobody is interested in, combine different kind of ideas, and he generate a new scientific field, which is exactly the case. And then I ask him, what is the probability this guy gets the Nobel Prize, ChatGPT? And I just say 20 to 40%. So that's the opinion of AI regarding what this person is doing. More interesting, interview in La Vanguardia, very recent. And what is very interesting, because you did something that has enormous impact in science, no doubt. What about the application of your graphene at 1.1 or whatever, or modular graphene? What kind of application? That's where creativity of a very smart mind like him is interesting to see, with a flow of question by the journalist. So first, no, he's not doing application, so disclaimer. And but we can do a patent, we can do sensor, biomedicine, and so on. Give an utility, so you can make some kind of sensor in the textile, and then you can take the battery out of your body, or impermeable, or cameras that can see at night, so on. That's all okay, all good. And then he start ultra. So now I think he's short in ID. So he's a telescopios that can be telescope that can see more. So I don't know what this is coming from. And then ultra cask electrodes with graphene that can read the neural electromagnetic signal in the neuron. So that is something that comes close to Mr. Jose Garrido. And also an artificial retina. Okay. And then he say, okay, colleague has succeeded. So they can grow some neurons in a kind of a spoon, what do you say, spoon? They can start to interconnect. So we are going into the brain, you are going to the intelligence, right? And we can envision that graphene will be an interface between the human and the machine. And the robot will execute mental order sent by the person, without a disability or not. Wow. And I'm sure he's inspired by something. So à la vanguardia say the graphene will read the thought and will be an interface between human and machine. Great. And they say, what kind of order? Well, graphene chip in the brain can read your intention to do something, and will convert this intention, and we send the message to the robot. Like what? Like, robot, take a glass of water and bring it to me. And then, what? You serious? All of this for asking a robot to bring you a glass of water? Come on, you're certainly joking. Okay, it's not finished. Aunque también, so it could also receive a message directly from your thought, even if you're not. So it's really like, mind-blowing, okay? Because let me finish. Are we developing all this? Are Garrido doing all this for having one day a stupid robot coming here and bringing me a glass of water? Because I will need water, actually. You have no bottle of water. So this is the end. Wow. I mean, it's crazy. So let's go serious now, and we will come to ICN2, not just Pablo Jarillo. So I asked to ChatGPT, imagine is more important than knowledge, which is the sentence of Einstein. What inspires you? Okay. Then ChatGPT, Two seminal thought experiments that were made by great physicists. Third, ChatGPT, are you able to make a thought experiment to impress me? ChatGPT, is ICN2 a very creative institute? And why? And ChatGPT, who is the most creative scientist of ICN2? So that's a very provocative question, but I like to provoke a bit. So what do you inspire by that? Man, the response is nice. Knowledge maps reality, imagination expanded. When you read this, it's really nice. I don't know if I discuss with one of my friends, he can, kind of circumvent so nice ideas in just a simple question immediately. Two scientists, immediately, Galileo, Einstein. Wow, I'm preparing my talk about that. Good. Can you make a thought experiment? Yes, I'd love to do so. And this is where the arrogance comes. Or the fact that they are programmed in a way to please you because you pay for that when you have this application comes. And him say, one and the puzzle in quantum theory is a measurement problem. Oh, wow, that's also, yeah, exactly. That's a really unsolved problem. ChatGPT, wow. And he gave me a thought experiment. That, tell the truth, I didn't have time, and I would not look into. One sentence. When does an observation stop being information in a superposition and becomes reality itself? This is unresolved knife edge, and perhaps the most haunting formulation is, so the guy, the computer, thinks he can make a thought experiment, he understands what is a thought experiment, he can impress me, and he can somehow make humans miserable. So I ask him, is the thought experiment you have presented above the result of your ChatGPT imagination or on-the-fly construction, just to prove your superiority to human beings? Because this is what we want to hear. And it's becoming very nice again. No, it's just on the fly and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Of course, you humans. Okay, so that's the kind of things you can enjoy. I'm saying that. Could you have discovered general relativity, ChatGPT? Could you have been superior to Einstein with the same knowledge that Einstein had at the time? I compare with it. With modern computer, I might have helped discover the question faster. I doubt I would have originated the conceptual revolution of Einstein. So, yeah, we're happy, no? No, now it's becoming more serious. ChatGPT is ICN2 very creative? Because maybe the people in the government, when they will receive the Severo layout, they will upload, and I will say, ChatGPT, is this an institute that deserves the fourth Severo award? Yes, by several concrete indicators. ICN2 is a very creative institute. So the breadth, disciplinary breadth, freedom to explore, and real translation from technology and ventures. So, Jose Garrido, we are safe, I guess. Yeah, wait for it. Wait for it. So now the question I ask him, I say, why don't I don't ask? I will have one friend, I know it's 17 enemies. Who is the most creative? Imagine you see my face. Please. Yeah, you can. It will be, yeah, you can take the picture. Because I was asking myself, and I say, in this kind of talk, we have to ask the question. Oh, I cannot honestly present this is an objective fact because most creative depends on the kind of creativity you mean. But if I had to choose one strongest all-around candidate on public evidence, I would put 1, 2, 3. Mr. Garrido. I told you, come, you will miss something. You have to. I will pick, so this is ChatGPT opinion. Maybe, I don't know. Whatever you want to say, you can comment. I know it's embarrassing. It's for me and for you. Okay, it's very embarrassing. But ChatGPT doesn't care about your feeling and my feeling. Just say, I would pick Garrido because his work sits at the rare intersection, fundamental to the microfabrication, neuroprotestic, self-powered bioelectronics. He coordinates an in-brain and so on. So these are indicators. Why does that read as creativity to me? Because it's not just a good science, it's the ability to connect different words. So it's nice. It's really pleasant, I think, Jose, to listen to you. I listen. Yeah, we talk later. Of course, Jose, I know you're so nice and kind person and all, and humble and things like we say, come on, but he forgets Costas, he forgets Carolina and all the people of my groups. And yeah, you're right. So I say, ChatGPT, please give me more names, right? So then it gives me more names. That said, Laura is also doing impressive things. And Danny also. What about me? Well, and if the lens of computational method creativity is hard to ignore. Yes, but I'm the only group member because the second group member is also the director of the institute. So we are not competing. Pablo has a lot of things else to do, and I'm just so yeah. Thank you. I'm very creative, being the only one in the institute. So of course, I could only show me with such a story. Okay, now it's finished. Just a few slides. So uh, I've been as who has a Macintosh here, please? The people who are Macintosh people. Young, 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 young. But there are young people they don't like Macintosh. At my age, I mean at your age, the two master students. I mean Macintosh was nah. I mean forget about all the crap because we have the Steve Jobs and Wozniak. This is really the creator. This is really the people. And actually, so I don't know if I can. What happened when I bought this? Exactly that. There was just a file, a video on the computer, and I want just to. I don't know if we can see it. We can watch it. Ah, yeah, we can watch it.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them, but the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Okay. Cliché. Yes and no. I mean, yes and no. Because the story of these two guys in the garage, it's a real story and it's impressive. So, and the message is looks like very American. So, everyone is like, he has been, he was born there, and this is like the way, push, and we are the crazy one. We will fight to the end, and we will discover and go to the moon and march and so on. It looks crazy, but actually it's not really crazy. I mean, if you too complicated. No, I can't. You do not make move forward. Okay, so actually the last slide is I'm putting this because I have my son here who decided not to do physics, but he did better. He did better psychology, and actually, why? Because the world is so crazy that we need more and more psychologists to understand what's going on in the human brain to make this work so crazy, despite the beautiful science, the beautiful technology of Garrido, and the prediction of Pablo Jarillo, and so on. Why is the world so crazy? And this guy has an interesting thing. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity. And I like this. It's kind of not, of course, the intellect will matter, but this is something that has to come from inside. So there is a lot of psychology into that, and to make maybe our educational system even more, efficient in discovery, we have to revise the way we teach, what we teach, and especially now that AI is also transforming the way to access knowledge and to generate knowledge. Okay, I think That was my first slide was a guy on the moon. I don't know. I don't know what was the message actually. I want a nice picture, and I say, yeah, human, we were on the moon, so that's the best we have done somehow. And then I had to ChatGPT, please give me with my title. Feel free, create something. And I don't know what you think, but it's not bad. It has some content just by the sentence it generated. Okay, thank you. I'm finished.